For the past 4 years, it's been an absolute privilege to serve as your first Vice President and National Safety Coordinator. I truly could not be prouder of this National Officer team, the many dedicated and devoted pilot representatives who make up our air safety organization, and our professional staff. 2018, it feels like a blink of an eye and a lifetime ago. What our teams did to lead this association during this past 4 years exemplifies the strength of our pilots working together towards our common goal. Very early on, we established an open dialogue that served as the bedrock for moving forward in times of uncertainty. We led with a team approach. We backed this practice with data attained through our Data Action Reporting System, DART, which we freely shared with all of our pilot group leaders. We stood up for our pilots in every arena, advocating for solutions. Our teams led through uncharted skies, events that could have crippled this industry. If these past few years reminded us of anything, it's that all aspects of aviation industry are truly a team sport. We are simply stronger together. When the FAA grounded the 737 MAX, we acted stronger. In the second accident happened shortly after we got started, early on in 2019. Based on data, ALPA supported the decision of the FAA and Transport Canada to ground the aircraft to uphold safety and integrity of each of our nation's air transportation systems. Working with our air safety organization and MEC safety experts, we increased our regular dialogue with industry, governments, and pilots within the union in the regulatory circles to advance aviation safety. We strongly encouraged the authorities responsible to expedite the investigations of both Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 and identify corrective actions to return this aircraft to service safely. About a year later, the National Transportation Safety Committee released the first 737 MAX investigation report. I'm not sure if any of you have read it, but one of the contributing factors, they highlight the importance of a strong, positive safety culture, one where pilots feel safe to file voluntary reports about identified safety issues. Well, the report highlights what happened on the flight before the accident flight. That crew experienced the same problem, but that crew got the stabilizer trim switches turned off, and they got the aircraft on the ground. However, what it highlights is that they flew from their departure to their destination without declaring an emergency, without landing short, and with the stick shaker going off the entire flight. How is that possible? What kind of training is going on in that area of the world? When they did land, they didn't really feel comfortable reporting what happened. They didn't have any kind of voluntary reporting system or structure in place that they could feel confident in. They didn't tell anybody what really occurred. After that flight, some maintenance work was conducted, and the next day, shortly thereafter, the plane once again took off, only this time for the last time. That is the difference between the safety culture in North America versus the safety culture in other areas of the world. It is unacceptable that there are pilots who fear what might happen if they report their experience in the aviation system. It is unacceptable that there are crews around the world who don't declare an emergency when their aircraft screams warnings at them the entire flight. It is so important that we continue to highlight our aviation advocacy work. Here in the United States and Canada, we have developed, as Joe said, the safest air transportation system in the world. We know how to do that. We know how to get business done. Through our work, we have raised the standards around the globe by highlighting the way we do business. It's the right way to do business. Every pilot in this room and all the pilots we represent know that when they say something is wrong, they do it in a safe, de-identified manner, free of retribution. Free of retribution. Our system is based on a positive safety culture. And the data collected through these programs build the various reinforcements into the system that ensures accidents like Lion Air and Ethiopian do not happen again. The MAX returned to service in late 2020 while we were deep into the pandemic. ALPA engaged with government and the manufacturer on issues surrounding the MAX, making significant improvements to the certification process. This will help ensure that we do not encounter a similar situation with future aircraft. In the aftermath of the MAX accidents, we were heavily involved in shaping policy around the world, corresponding directly with ICAO Secretary General, as Joe described. ICAO subsequently established a working group under the Pilot Training and Licensing Panel. This group would examine the global standards and recommended practices concerning pilot training and licensing. And ALPA, as Joe stated, has several reps on this panel. In North America, we have embraced major safety benefits from the 2010 legislation, and as a result, we have led to improved training and experience standards. However, there are other countries that allow airlines to take any and every advantage to cut costs at the price of safety. You've heard me talk about this before, but Wizz Air is one of the worst labor violators today. The airline operates primarily out of Hungary, but it flies all over Europe, and it applied to the Department of Transportation to fly into the United States, planning at first to conduct cargo operations. They just wanted to fly their one cargo jet into the United States. We recognized for what that was. That was just a step in, and then they were going to start bringing passengers in. We know through our relationship with the Europeans that Wizz Air is not doing business the way they should be doing business. They have pilots working there under self-employment contracts. I actually have seen one of these self-employment contracts just recently. In this particular case, the contract describes the pilot as the service provider. And they say that the service provider is not an employee of Wizz Air. The service provider will provide their own liability insurance. The service provider will submit to a medical examination at any time, including x-rays, diagnostics tests. And finally, the service provider is guaranteed 2 days off a month. Okay? That's the pilots working at Wizz Air, and they want to fly into the United States. When you look at a pilot flying at a company like Wizz Air, it goes right back to the safety argument. How does that pilot feel comfortable to say anything without being retaliated against? Well, Wizz is just an extremely anti-union operation. On top of the anonymous complaints about safety, the airline failed to respect court orders putting organizers back into work. We recently pointed out to the Department of Transportation. We asked if EASA, who was overseeing the regulatory oversight of Wizz Air, were they able to do enough to provide effective safety oversight of Wizz Air? How is the safety management system working given that culture? We asked those questions. Let's just state the obvious. This is an example of the latest scheme to skirt social protections in different countries and to ignore scientific data that has made North America airline travel the safest mode of transportation in the world. Well, the Department of Transportation agreed with us. saying that the U.S. could not be sure that EASA was doing enough to ensure safety oversight and denied Wizz Air's application. That was a huge win, a huge win. And it's going to be up to the new leadership team and all of us to ensure that the FAA, when they're looking at what EASA is doing, that they're doing good oversight. They're asking the right questions. This fight has to continue. We just can't let it end with this recent decision. We thank the Department of Transportation for upholding the FAA's practical ability to assess the safety of foreign carriers who seek to operate to and from the world's largest air service market. In the years to come, ALPA's role within ALPA and ALPA's seat at the table in ICAO discussions will be critical. We are watching with concern an effort to normalize cross-border group operations with interoperability of airplanes and maybe crews among airlines at a rapid pace. Let's just get one airplane and let's let everybody fly it. That's essentially what they want to do. We'll have Chilean pilots fly it down to Argentina. We'll have Argentinian pilots fly it up to Miami. We'll have Peruvian pilots fly from Miami back to Peru. These schemes are all coming from the same small group out there, and they must continue to be pushed back against with the right data and the way to do business. Earlier this month, I attended the ICAO Triennial Assembly with the ALPA team in Montreal to discuss worldwide aviation policy. In advance of that meeting, we worked with the Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation, Homeland Security, and State, along with the FAA, TSA, and the U.S. mission to ICAO, to share our perspective on multiple topics, including single pilot and reduced crew operations, mandatory retirement age for pilots, and environmental sustainability. We must be part of those discussions, forming that policy as an international standard. If we sit back and only react to the threats of our international pilot community that they are confronting, we cannot expect to survive in the increasingly global marketplace. We have to be at the table, not just with our safety rhetoric, but with the data to back up our claims. As we have done in the past, we'll call upon every one of you and your pilots to assist us in these endeavors. And I'm confident that, as you have successfully demonstrated in the past, you'll answer our calls. While this would normally be enough for any leadership team to manage, it wasn't even the tip of an iceberg as we faced the COVID-19 pandemic. Early in the pandemic, we engaged the full resources of the union, including the Air Safety Organization, to work together for the pilots. When we first started to see just how severely this pandemic would harm our industry and impact our members, our national officer team made a vow to routinely check in with each other. We opened up lines of communication and increased coordination. We instituted daily calls with our leadership and the Air Safety Organization teams and many representatives from your own MVCs. We received briefings on the virus, on our health and safety standards, our crew protocols, and travel restrictions. We checked in with you, and we asked, what can we do? What haven't we done? What haven't we thought of? How best can we help our members? Open communication, teamwork. We offered real paths forward to address the multitudes of scenarios our members face throughout the pandemic. In those early days, it was ensuring our members had all the information they needed to stay safe and healthy. Honestly, early on, we had some airlines providing products that killed COVID, but also kills human beings. There was no standard out there on how to clean our airplanes. We worked hard to produce that standard, and we're working hard to make sure that standard does not go away. This won't be the last time we have something like this out there. We also led to the changes in the U.S. oxygen mask requirements. We also ensured, like I just said, the safety and sanitizing of our aircraft and training facilities. Once again, collecting data became paramount. Our DART program provided an avenue to turn our members' reports into action on the Hill, demonstrating real concerns on noncompliance with the FAA SAFO and the CDC guidance. Data remains the lifeblood of our safety work. We should always be able to provide the FAA and the industry data regarding the issues our members face. Having a national pilot peer support program was essential. Joe's vision to put that in place played huge dividends. These largely unsung heroes are still helping our pilots adjust to the new normal and work through the many issues the stress of the pandemic placed on our members. Having safety, security, jump seat, and pilot assistance leadership of the Air Safety Organization all working together under one umbrella proved invaluable. I cannot stress how proud and grateful we are of the work these ALPA reps accomplished through the pandemic, right? Working as a singular team with a common goal. It simply just increased our resilience as the pandemic phases shifted and the threats changed from the health and prevention to unruly passengers and security concerns. As you recall, there was a sharp uptick in unruly passenger behavior. We worked with the FAA along with the TSA and fully supported its zero-tolerance policy. It was good to see them take action to safeguard our skies. And then, as Joe described, the 5G saga came on the map. Yet another testament to ALPA's ongoing efforts to ensure that the cellular signal expansion is done safely and without any adverse effects to aviation. The issue here goes back to 2018 when the FCC auctioned licenses for the use of 5G C-band spectrum to the telecom communications industries. ALPA and the aviation community immediately responded by urging the FCC to fully analyze the potential impact on commercial flight safety systems. To be clear, 5G signals interference resulted in a loss of radar altitude information, or worse, incorrect information that provides hazards and misleading results in critical parts of flight, takeoff and landing. As the C-band transmissions launched at the beginning of this year, the FAA issued hundreds of NOTAMs that impacted our members' aviation operations. They limited access to airports in low visibility conditions, causing flight delays, cancellations, and delayed package deliveries. After high-level talks, frankly, with the Department of Transportation Secretary and the President's Economic Council, the wireless companies agreed with the FAA to delay broadcast of the C-band 5G until January 19th of this year, 2022. With just hours before deployment, the two wireless companies further agreed not to turn on 5G transmitters within 2 nautical miles of airport runways. Literally, nobody wanted to share data amongst each other to really understand what was going on. And it took that much effort to finally get everybody in the room and let's take a look at the data, what's going on, and put mitigations in place. For pilots, this wasn't and still isn't about politics or profit. It goes right back to the safety argument. Since shining the light on the issue, we have continued government and industry discussions. And we are hopeful that by July of next year, we will reach our collective goal of removing current NOTAMs and have proper, effective mitigations in place that will enable 5G's safe expansion. Our multi-layered approach to the pandemic has resonated throughout the halls of government and industry. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the relationships that are built with government and industry that allow us to address our concerns. ALPA played, and I'm just going to be frank here, ALPA played a critical role in passing the CARES Act. and later the payroll support program. In coalition with other labor unions, we passed 3 PSPs, as Joe talked about, securing financial support directly for aviation industry workers and prohibiting stock buybacks and managerial bonuses. While most governments around the world supported their airlines with financial aid, only the United States chose to specifically support its airline employees. And I'm going to reemphasize what Joe said. ALPA PAC is the key component of our advocacy toolbox, and it was foundational to our ability to educate decision makers on the impact of the pandemic to our industry and our livelihoods. So as your ALPA PAC treasurer, I'm eager to report that ALPA PAC membership is on the rise after decline during the pandemic. In 2020, ALPA PAC was just under 13,000 members. Right now, we are about 250 away from that number. And by the end of the year, I fully expect to exceed that number. With the increase in PAC members signing up and so many critical issues facing Congress, next year should be a record year for contributions to. Our successes in the United States could not happen without your support, and it is gratifying to see the commitment to the ALPA PAC moving among the leaders in this BOD, and I can't thank you enough. So please continue to encourage your pilots to contribute to the ALPA PAC because it does pay off. It does pay off. Now more than ever, it's essential that our political outreach stays strong. Thank you to all of you in this room who are leading the effort to engage our members in signing up for the PAC. As we've learned from the past 4 years, there's no checklist for handling a U.S. government shutdown, a global pandemic, grounding of an aircraft, 5G breakthroughs, and so much more. While our Air Safety Organization reps dealt with the major issues, they also helped deliver numerous wins, including secondary barriers. And I just want to be clear what Joe said. The final rule is going to come out shortly, and we commented on the final rule. The final rule is probably going to put in place secondary barriers are going to be required on aircraft coming off the line. But what we said is that let's go back to 2018 when the United States Congress passed this law, and let's go retrofit all the aircraft that have come off the line since 2018. We were also able to raise the oxygen mask requirements to flight level 410. The ASO duty officer program, if you have not heard about that, we now have pilot volunteers in the office in McLean just about every week working on your behalf. We just had the largest air safety forum in years, which I frankly believe was a huge, huge success. And then there's the Flight Finder Jump Seat app that Joe talked about. First ever pilot peer support symposium. Adding advocacy issues to the ALPA app. And if you have not looked at the ALPA app lately, there's now an advocacy tile on the front page. You can go right there, see how much you're contributing, see what calls to actions need to be done, and you can also have a member sign up right there on your app now. And thank you to the IT professionals in this union that have so much worked with us and our visions on how to move this union forward. Flight Finder, DART, advocacy, all on the app. The app has really come around. So here's the thing about lists. They're never complete. There's no way I can possibly thank all the people I need to thank or mention every safety, security, pilot assistance, or jump seat issue on our radar. But these and other topics are what Delegate Committee 3 will discuss this week. I do, however, want to share some parting thoughts with you. To this room filled with ALPA pilot leaders and the next slate of national officers, know that the decisions we've made and continue to make this week will impact our members for industries to come, impact our members and industry for years to come. Our union's work is never done. We all know that in aviation safety security, we must be vigilant at all times. We must be proactive, fully informed, and in the room. We must be curious and courageous. Ask the questions before policies and strategies are implemented, not after they're the law of the land. For more than 90 years, we have stood our ground, worked on the side of right, and continued to be the conscience of the industry. Stay engaged. Encourage your pilots to stay engaged. As I leave this office, I'm excited to see what lies ahead for ALPA. I truly am. And I am truly grateful for this team that you put us together with to work with. These are wonderful people that are passionate about our members and what's the right thing to do. So thank you. We faced challenges that tested the very soul of our members, and you are picking up that torch. Serving our members is one of the most interesting times in aviation. It has been an honor to serve as your first vice president and national safety coordinator. And honestly, it's been an honor to serve our members. Thank you for your time, and please continue to fly safe.